This is Eastmans Elevated podcast. I have on great guests that are really knowledgeable, consistently successful. We're able to dive deep down the rabbit holes of these different subject matters of shooting, of physical fitness, of mental toughness and drive. All the different skills that make up a complete hunter that you can become.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? Got a brand new Eastmans Elevated for you. So on today's podcast, I have back on my friend Jason Matzinger. I met Jason about 15 years ago on the construction site. He was working as an electrician, me as a carpenter, and even back then he was so generous with his knowledge and information and also with his time. And so we've kept in touch throughout the years. Of course, he's created this great brand and just puts out absolutely top-notch video films. He's so talented with his editing, with his filming, and he's also a really talented hunter. So much knowledge in there. So just a great guy that I have a ton of respect for, and I really enjoy our conversations, including today's. So Jason has a new film out called Selective. Go check it out. It's an amazing film that documents hunting for this Dall sheep that he went on. And this Dall sheep, we talk about it in the podcast. It's just amazing. Like, this pushed his limits as a hunter of what he's capable of, and charging these big mountains and hunting with a really good guide that also is in great shape. And so it just made for like this amazing in-depth conversation. So I learned a lot on today's podcast. Make sure to go check out all of Jason's films. Check them out on the Sportsman's channel, Into High Country. And and everything he does, he's just a great human being, and really enjoyed having him on the podcast. So thanks to him again for his time and being on. I want to thank our sponsors for today's show. I want to thank Juniper Mountain Coffee. Juniper Mountain Coffee is a family-owned business out of Oregon. They go down to South America and they source all their beans from local growers down there. It's why their roasts are absolutely amazing. So really love the flavor of their coffee. They got some great roasts. They have an elk as their logo. So these guys are hunters, and I really appreciate their support on the podcast. So we lost the sponsorship from one of their competitors, and Juniper Mountain stepped on board and is sponsoring the podcast. They're listeners of the podcast. They're hunters themselves. And I just couldn't be more proud to partner with this company, and I am loving their coffee. So that's all I'm drinking now is the Juniper Mountain coffee. I'm so impressed, and soon to be released, they will have some instant coffee, and there's no doubt in my mind that it'll be of high quality for us hunters to be able to use in the field. So if you're in the market for some coffee, if you want to try out some different roasts, make sure to go check them out over at Juniper Mountain Coffee. And thanks again to those guys for their support. I also want to thank Swagger Bipods. Swagger Bipods they have bipods that'll mount to your rifle. They also have shooting sticks that fit in a case on your hip. They have all different sizes of bipods, so they can mount to your rifle. They also make it with a quick detach so that you can carry your bipod in your pack and then attach it when you get close to the shot. These aren't your standard bipods. These bipods were designed to be able to get great shots on animals, and shooting a rifle accurately is all about your rest. So they're spring tension loaded, so you can shoot uphill or downhill. You can actually swivel on the bipod, so if that elk starts walking right or left, you can swivel and keep yourself on target. I've just found that these are great bipods. I've used them with my family a bunch, and it seems like you can always get a good rest and make an accurate shot with these things. And some of the different sizes, you can definitely shoot prone with all of them, but you can also shoot sitting and kneeling and even standing on some of their bipods. So there's a different model for all your different needs. If you're in the market for a new bipod, make sure to check them out over at Swagger. I also want to thank Outdoor Edge Knives. Outdoor Edge Knives makes a replaceable blade knife, and the knife is a bit burlier on there, so it's not as flimsy. It doesn't break. You can really cut up an animal quick, and having these replaceable replaceable blades means that you never have to sharpen your knife. You just replace the blade, got a brand new razor on it, ready to go. So this makes it nice so you don't have to pack in multiple knives, you don't have to pack in sharpening stones, you just pack a handful of blades in there, and really I can get through an entire deer with one blade. Elk, I like to change them a couple times. Their hide is so thick that it tends to dull my blade. I put a new one on, and really being safe with a blade is having a sharp blade that you don't have to force. And Outdoor Edge always has a sharp blade, so you can really use the edge of that knife to process your animal. So I can process an entire animal, including getting the head off, tenderloins, back straps, all the quarters off, all with an Outdoor Edge knife. Super lightweight and, like I say, a little bit more rigid and strong in their blade design, which I really like. So if you're in the market for a new blade or new knife, make sure to check them out over at Outdoor Edge Knives. I also want to thank Black Ovis. Black Ovis is an internet retail shop that carries all the top name brands as well as their own name brand, which is high quality as well. So I've seen a bunch of gear from Black Ovis, and I've been really impressed with it, from sleeping bags to puffy pants to different clothing items. I saw Clint was wearing some clothing items, so they really have some good gear there. And like I say, all the other top name brands, you can find absolutely everything you need for your next hunt, and you can save 10% off your order. Just put in the promo code ELEVATED10 at checkout, and that'll get you some money off your order. I also want to thank Camo Fire. So Camo Fire is an app that has brand new hunting deals that come up. So 80 new hunting deals every 24 hours. You can save a pile of money on overstock gear, extra gear items. So make sure to check those guys out at Camo Fire. Over at Eastmans, we just dropped the brand new Beyond the Grid with Dan's biggest bull to date. Go check that out. There'll be episodes dropping, I believe, every Saturday. Or the next one comes out the 29th, and that's Dan's other big bull that he killed in Montana. So just some great films, great footage. I have some good mule deer ones coming up. I also have an elk one coming up I'm really excited about to share with you guys. So make sure to check us out on the new season. Just search Eastman's Hunting TV on YouTube, and we'll pop up. There's a bunch of older films on there, and also new releases. So films that were played on the Outdoor channel that maybe you missed, those episodes are now on our YouTube, so you can check those out. And make sure to check out the magazines, Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Eastman's Hunting Journal. Thanks for the support of the new podcast, you guys. Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, it's the one I do with Dan Bakar, so just search Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Life of a Bow Hunter. That'll pop up. It's on a different feed. Just really great episodes, full information. We just recorded one this morning, again, that will release this week. They release every other Friday for right now. But check it out, man. It's an amazing podcast. I'm really proud of it. And so we'll keep that thing rolling, and everything else we have at Eastman's. Appreciate the support on that. And man, I'm just getting back from an absolute insane hunt. Hunting Hawaii was incredible. Hunting axis deer and mouflon sheep and hanging out with buddies. And I just feel so recharged after a big hunt like that. Like I actually never saw the beach or got in the ocean, and I was just going a million miles an hour. I was running off about 3-4 hours of sleep every night and just hunting my butt off, which is what I truly love to do. Killed my biggest axis to date. I'll be releasing that on my social media, be releasing some videos and photos and things of that nature. So just trying to get caught up here, get this podcast out to you guys, and then get some work done on the construction site, but I'll make sure to get that post on social media. Man, we're counting down the days till Western hunting. So so fun. It's so recharging. Like I was, it was tough for me. I had a bunch going on, and it's tough to get everything in order. I've got really good friends out there that helps with logistics, but I was a bit stressed leaving from it, but I couldn't feel better getting back from it. Like, we are meant for these adventures, and I just feel like I'm living life to the fullest. So it was amazing. I'll talk about it in a future podcast, but let's get into this podcast. I've been rambling long enough. A great one with Jason Matzinger. Make sure to go check out his new film, Selective, and all the films he has out, all the episodes of Into High Country. Just a amazing videographer, amazing hunter, and human being. Really glad I know him. So I'm your host, Brian Barney. This is Eastmans Elevated. Here we go. Man, I really appreciate you joining me. We sat down the other night, or we talked the other night when we ran into each other, still just thinking about that sheep hunt and your experience up there, man. It was absolutely wild.
Yeah. No,
Yep.
it was, I think I told you when we first sat down, I had a number of people tell me that I really look up to, that when I was going on that hunt, they're like, it'll change you. You know, you'll come back a changed man. And
Dall sheep hunt, right?
yep, Dall sheep in
Yep.
the Northwest Territories. And, man, they weren't wrong. It definitely redefined what I was capable of mentally, physically, and made me realize, you know, back home I've been running at about 40% on my hunts, you know.
Well, that's crazy for somebody like you to say. You know, you hunt so hard and have so many trophy critters under your belt. I mean, the sheep hunt was kind of even overshadowed by that giant bull that you killed, but you had such a great season, and you have great seasons year after year. So to hear a guy like you say, hey, I'm only giving 40% because you went in the most extreme country you could to go hunt these sheep, and then hunting with one of the fit, you know, mountain hunters that's just accustomed to that sheep country, you know.
Yeah.
That's just wild, man. That's wild for you to say.
Yeah, well, it was. I wish, you know, everybody could have that opportunity to go up there and experience that, because it, you know, not to get dramatic, but it will change you in one way or the other, whether it's mentally, physically. You know, what I realized was about 5 days in, the only thing that mattered on that hunt was food, water, and shelter, like the very basics of life. And it was, you know, it just came naturally. And you're thinking about things like, you know, you're already packing 60, 70 pounds of just your camp, because we were mobile every day. It wasn't like we were going to a camp and then hiking out of it. We were just on the move every day.
Oh, nice.
And so the question was always like, okay, so we're going to the top of the ridge. Do we want to haul water up there, or is there water up there? And that's one question that we asked ourselves over and over, you know, because water obviously is one of the heaviest things you're going to pack around. And if it's at the top of the mountain, you don't have to pack it. So it was always this, are we willing to take that risk to save on weight to get to the top of the mountain to maybe find water? Because up there, you use water for drinking, but also eating. Everything's a freeze-dried meal. So you have two Nalgenes. One of those Nalgenes is going to go to food, and one is going to be hydration. And so those two Nalgene bottles literally become your lifeblood, you know, of your thought process, of your movements, and your timing, and all of it. And so it's just really rare in today's world to ever find yourself only relying on the basics, you know, and everything else is completely irrelevant.
Man, so true that water is that lifeblood of the backcountry, and it's such a gray area. You don't know where it's at. Hunting these high country muleys in a lot of these spots where we're hunting that same style with our camp on our back and making huge climbs up there. And yeah, you're right. You've got a lot of times I have 100-ounce bladder, 2 Nalgenes. I know I can get through a couple, 2-3 days, but there's a lot of time I'm risking it. And actually, you know, a lot of the best places I find don't have water, because guys get up there with one Nalgene bottle full of water because it's the heaviest thing. One Nalgene bottle full of water, and then they can't survive up there. And if I can pack 2-3 days worth of water, live where there's no water, those deer get the water from their food source. So it's a huge part of my strategy when I'm hunting. And I know, you know, some like hiking into Nevada this year, it's this huge 3,000-foot climb over the top, and I've got this secret spring. But when I'm hiking up there and I'm running low on water, it's like, man, I hope that spring's running.
Right.
I hope that thing has water, or if not, I'm going to be in trouble, or
You're
I'm going to have
hurting.
to walk straight
Yeah.
back down the mountain to go grab water. But there's something, it is a cool feeling to just be thinking about those basics. Like you say, food, water, shelter, keeping yourself alive, everything else kind of washes away. So
100%.
present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So you booked this sheep hunt like what, a couple of years ago?
2018.
Oh, wow.
Me and a buddy were just like, we're never going to have the time and we're never going to have the money.
Oh,
But
you did it with a buddy too?
yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, we didn't hunt together, but we
Yep.
booked the hunt together. We flew up there together, and then we ended up in different camps.
Okay.
But yeah.
Oh, cool.
So,
Man.
And then I had Sam Solholt with me. He's who filmed it, which, Sam and I have become just really good friends. So I was just stoked to have Sam along on the hunt.
He's a stand-up human being. It's
man.
good behind the lens, know. And it gets to be, you guys are a team when you go up there to capture the footage and to try to kill a ram. But what an experience, man. What an adventure getting up there like above tree line and really covering country, or almost more than you think is humanly possible in your mind. Like, so much of this is just like the mindset, and you hunt so much, but you're right. If we get stuck in this rut where we hike in, 2-3 miles, or we hike in 5 miles and we hike and hunt the surrounding country. But when you're on a sheep hunt for that many days on end, and you have to cover this immense amount of terrain all with your leg power, pretty soon, you're doing 5-10 miles a day and stretching it through this rugged terrain, or 3,000 to 5,000 vert. Had to be wild. Like, that's what you're talking about changing your mindset of what's possible, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Just the vastness of the landscape, the difficulty of the terrain, the amount of weight we were packing,
the packs were pretty heavy. You were saying like 60 to 70 pounds. You just need so much gear for that
10 days.
Yeah, 10 days. Yeah.
And there's 3 of you, and we're filming it. We have all that kind of extra stuff.
Yep.
And so we spread it out. Like, I carried all of our garbage for the 3 of us, and I carried our fuel. But in exchange, Sam carried our 2-man tent, and it was always just this give and take. I mean, yeah. So we all had about the same amount of weight, but it definitely adds up.
It is. Weight is the equalizer, right? When you stick a backpack on your back and then you go cover miles, like, you can walk forever with no weight on you, no backpack, no nothing. You can walk forever, but you stick that weight on your back, it just wears on you. Like, that is such a difference maker. It makes everything tougher.
Totally. And the other thing is like, a lot of that footing was just talus and rocky, unsecure side hill, unlike hunting, Montana, where you kind of got that solid footing every step, and it's pretty, consistent. Up there was the rocky terrain is probably what got to me the most, which was about in the middle of the hunt, the outsides of my knees started getting sore. Like, I think they call it the IT band.
Yeah.
Which I had never felt before, but I felt it on that hunt. And I took, like, for a couple mornings, I'd take a couple of Excedrin to kind of just kickstart the day. And after that, like, I worked through it and it was fine. But it was definitely like that boulder walking that I was not used to, and that's where I was saying, like, following Dustin, like, normal, regular hiking, walking, I could keep up. You get into that difficult, steep, technical terrain, Dustin excels. Like, he drifts across it effortlessly,
Man, that had to be cool to see. Well, he's just conditioned to it. He's been doing it his whole life. And when you do something your whole life, like, your body kind of adapts to that, and then you just get really good at it. Same way we are in Montana country or navigating through. We've been doing it our whole lives, and you take a Flatlander with us, and they can't keep up or go at our pace. But, it had to be humbling or a little wild for you, because you're always in the best shape, when you're hunting, is to go with somebody that's in better shape or better suited for those mountains. Had to be pretty cool to see.
It was. I mean, the amount of times I'd look back at Sam, like, and point to Dustin, like, look at this guy. And we would just look at each other and laugh and shake our head like, oh my God, he's so freaking good.
And so I can't wait to watch the film, man. It has to be amazing. Just your storytelling ability, and then I just love watching films in extreme terrain, and that's like the most extreme you can get up in that country.
100%.
Man, have you been working on the editing at all, or is this a project down the road?
No, the film is going to drop this summer, probably middle of the summer, wrapped around like Total Archery Challenge in Bozeman, we're thinking. But I did release the trailer. I announced the film at Sheep Show a couple weeks ago. So I dropped a 6.5-minute trailer, which I can show you when we get off of here.
I can't wait.
Diving into it. I have more interviews I need to do, but other than that, most of it's shot. It started, like I said, in 2018 is when I planned the hunt and I planned the film. The film was supposed to come out in 2020, but I couldn't get to Canada. So 2 years delayed me getting to Canada to film the hunt portion of the film. Mm-hmm. So, but, as things often kind of work out, as much as that's not how I would have, chosen it to go, it was a blessing in disguise. The content I've been able to get over the last 2 years that's relevant to the film that I wouldn't have got if I would have put it out in 2020. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of now, happy that things worked out they did, because some of the tightest parts, in my opinion, of the film came in the last couple years. Mm-hmm. Boone and Crockett had their 135th anniversary, and for the first time ever, they allowed people in the room with the panel scores for the last 7-year awards, when they were scoring all the latest world records and species from across the North America, basically. Mm-hmm. They let us in the room for the first time in 135 years of the club's existence.
Wow.
And we filmed it, and so, got to film the panel scoring the new number 4 bighorn, and the whole process, and, the Wonders of Wildlife Museum, Johnny Morris's, what he did there in Springfield with the Wonders of Wildlife is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And they're so stoked about the project. I mean, they flat out rolled out the red carpet for us to film in that museum. So some of the scenes that we got in the museum, being able to film professionally in a museum, was pretty fun, because you don't get that a lot. Those controlled sort of circumstances in a place so grand as a museum. Mm-hmm. And the fact that their whole mission with Wonders of Wildlife is to prove how hunting is conservation. I mean, that's the whole messaging behind Wonders of Wildlife. So when they heard about this Selective film, they were just like, how can we help? What can we do? Do you need these lights shut off? Should we turn the sound on here? Should we, they literally rolled out the red carpet. And so, blessing in disguise the way it worked out, but I'm, just so stoked for some of those scenes.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, where can guys watch the film? Where's it going to come out at?
So we're going to launch it at TAC. Like I said, kind of under the stars, raise some money for sheep and Boone and Crockett. And then it'll immediately go on Outdoor and Sportsman's channel. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it'll land online through a number of platforms. But the one that I can promise it'll land on right now is Wild Sheep Foundation's YouTube page.
Okay.
So,
man, how cool! I can't wait to see it. And it's nice that you don't have to rush through these projects. You so talented and so skillful, but we get caught at having to produce content. Not that you would have rushed your way through it. I'm sure it would have been an amazing film, but to be able to take this much time and this much effort into this film, it's going to be absolutely one of a kind. I bet you're so excited to release it.
I am, man. And it's, it's not like a in-your-face kind of film to the anti-hunting community. It's not defending trophy hunting as much as it is defining it from the beginning to now, but furthermore, explaining what selective hunting is moving forward. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of nuances in hunting that we didn't have to deal with growing up, that our dads didn't have to deal with growing up, that we are now. And we've come to this place where a human population, how effective we are, how much information is out there. We've gotten to a place, in my opinion, where we're sort of overstepping our reach with wildlife. And so I think more than ever, and hunters have always led the way. Hunters have always made the right decisions in the name of wildlife. And I think we're facing a time right now where guys like you and I and people who care about this need to start making decisions that's best for wildlife, even if it's legal, even if there's tags, even if you're not doing anything wrong. I think that we're starting to recognize the problems in our wildlife management as hunters, and I think now more than ever we need to be self-policing, and we need to really lay that groundwork of what is selective hunting and why is it so important? What's the difference between shooting a 2-point mule deer and saying, I don't care about the horns, I just want meat? It's fine. But what's the difference between that and killing a white-tailed doe on the river if you just want meat? Well, there's a big difference, a real big difference for the health of that herd, what's healthy for the wildlife, the continuation, the all of it down the line. So I want Selective as a film to do a good job of explaining what selective hunting is now, because it's different. I think a lot of people think that I'm going to come out with this film and all I'm going to talk about is killing the biggest, baddest animal on the mountain, which that is a part of selective hunting, but that's only in places where the ecosystem and the herd structure and the age class is perfect. Mm-hmm. You have it all. You've got, young bucks, you got young does, you got multiple fawns, you have old dry does, you have old bucks that are dying of old age. Those are the scenarios where targeting like those super old bucks and killing them is a great thing for that environment. But, you turn around and you go to some areas where there's more deer, say, 200 deer coming into an alfalfa field or something, and there's 5 bucks. And the oldest one is a 3.5-year-old spindly little 4-point. People need to understand that killing that buck because he's the oldest one in that herd is not the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. In that scenario, leave the bucks alone, kill 170 does, mm-hmm. and don't touch your bucks. That is as much selective hunting as killing a 12-year-old ram in the Northwest Territories. Mm-hmm. They equally serve their purpose. So that's really been like the light bulb going off moment for me in this whole project and all the interviews I've done is selective hunting is a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And when you pull that word trophy out of it, it's easier to have real conversations around it because people get too caught up in that trophy side of things, mm-hmm. and that's all they hear. When they hear selective, that's so many things. And what I love about selective hunting is it brings us all back together again. Like whether you're a subsistence hunter, whether you're the guy that wants the biggest thing on the mountain, or anywhere in between, if we're all selective hunting for the health of the wildlife, not for our own reasons, which you can still selfishly hunt for your own reasons within that, but if you're killing the animals when they're right, selective harvest is subsistence hunting. Selective harvest is trophy hunting. Selective harvest is depredation hunting. Mm-hmm. Selective is hunting. Mm-hmm. It brings us all back together as we're just hunters. Mm-hmm. And if we have this understanding of, what we're doing out there on a greater level than just, I need to fill the freezer this year. Mm-hmm. Instilling that thought process in people, I think is important moving forward. Like when we grew up, our dads kind of had that mentality like, well, if you aren't putting blood on the tailgate, we aren't hunting, or, how many times have I heard, well, just shoot it, it's your first one. Just get one under your belt. That's fine. I have nothing against that. But, I've taught my boys to be selective hunters from the beginning. And not that I think, everybody needs to do that. I just think that it's okay. Our wildlife cannot withstand the amount of people, pressure, and information we have been putting on it. And that's where I'm coming back to the fact that I think we just need to pause for a minute and look at what we're doing on a grand scale. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, my boy wanted an antelope tag so bad. Last year was the first year he could apply and draw an antelope, and he didn't get it. So this year he really wanted the antelope tag, and he got one. But I've instilled these things in him. So we go out there and we hunt for about half a day, and we finally see an antelope buck. And we kind of sneak in. We get close, 280 yards. We peek over the little rise, and we're looking. And I said, well, if you like him, bud, take him. And he's looking through his scope. He goes, I don't know, Dad. He doesn't have any prongs. And he just looks young. And he started breaking down. He's 14 years old. He starts breaking down this antelope, and he was 100% correct in everything he said. And I said, well, if you like the looks of him, And he goes, nah, I kind of want to wait. I want one with, I just want one with bigger prongs, And I said, good on you, man. And so he walked away from that situation not feeling like, it was an unsuccessful hunt that day. He walked away feeling proud that he made that decision and made that choice. And so, I could go on and on about this subject because I'm so involved in it right now with this film, but I'm not taking this project lightly because I think that selective hunting is absolutely something that needs to be defined better as we move forward for the benefit of wildlife and for the benefit of us and our kids still having good experiences into the future. I think we've learned here recently that science-based decisions aren't always at the forefront of what's happening now. And as hunters, like I said, we've always led the way. And if we believe that those decisions aren't being made for the right reasons, other than politics or money or power, or things that don't actually involve the best decisions for wildlife, then it's, our place as hunters to stand up and say, no, this isn't okay. This isn't right. Even though it could be legal, So I think we're at a critical crossroads. I maybe go a little too far down the road, but I think we're past the point of healthy pressure that we're putting on our wildlife. I really do.
Yeah. Man, it's so interesting. It's so well thought out. I can tell you've spent a lot of time thinking about it. I've had a really tough time defining it, defining trophy hunting, and I love that term of selective hunting, and I love the maturity that we're all getting to this place where, maybe I didn't always do the best thing for the herd when I was younger. I didn't know better, and I was chasing big bucks.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
And sometimes you get in a low population situation and still find a big buck and end up harvesting it. But you're right to look at the herd's health. Like I know I've started to mature as a hunter, and when I have a hunt or I have a tag, I'm also taking a tally on the population. Is it a healthy population? Like that moose hunt this year, seeing 40 moose. Now all of a sudden I can feel like there's a healthy population. I'm seeing cows and calves. I'm seeing young bulls, and big bulls were few and far between, but I did see a handful of those too,
Yeah.
So I can feel like this is a real healthy herd in this mountain range. I feel good, I have a legal tag, but I really feel good about harvesting an older age class moose because I know there's a bunch coming up. I know they'll fill the place of it. The herd's going to continue to thrive in this area. But you're right, it's like a more mature look at it. So it is super beneficial for us hunters now, for the hunters in the future. And you're right, we almost have to start self-policing ourselves. And I don't know, if hunting a spot in Montana that I've hunted for years, it's the poorest year I've ever seen in there. It's going so far downhill, and I'm, and then it makes me take a deeper look into it. Is it the doe harvest? Is it, and a lot of it is the hunting pressure, like you say, that we're going to have some changes, but they lag behind what's happening in real time. And us as hunters that have been in these areas for years, hunting these different places, we can take tabs on the wildlife and how the herd's doing, and then we can affect laws in the future. We can affect tags in the future, hopefully, by being able to influence, by letting them know what we're seeing on the ground. But it is a self-policing, maturing of hunters and really looking at that herd and doing what's right for them. And we do, it's so driven for so long, but now it is about the experience and the adventure, and you want the next generation to be able to experience that as well. And there's going to definitely have to be changes along the line, but you've done what I have struggled to do for years, is to really come up with the words to describe the type of hunting I like to do, or like I've really struggled with how to describe, trophy hunting, which now selective hunting is a way better term, like you say. Yeah. But I can just tell how well thought out this is, how well talked out this is, and how much time and effort you've put into this. So I can't wait to see the film where you lay it out even better for us. Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, it's, I enjoy and I learn so much. It's like, you sit down and you interview the world's experts on these subjects. It's like, just a front seat to like the best education you can get on wildlife conservation. And through years of doing it with sheep and mule deer and elk and turkeys and whitetail and trophy hunting, and you start to see the problems or the holes in what we're doing, and you're 100% correct. I mean, I have never seen worse hunting in my entire life than I did this year in Montana. And I think it's our own fault. Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, they set their quotas or their limitations on certain areas and what we can and can't do. But, everybody's just shaking their head like, where'd the deer go? And, it's not like we're finding them dead. Like, if blue tongue comes in or EHD or something, you find them dead all over.
And
like,
it's changed so quick in the last year or two, really.
And so it's like, I feel like, where have the deer gone? Why aren't we finding them? Well, they're leaving in the back of pickup trucks. That's why we're not finding them. We're just way overstepping it. Like,
there's only so many mature bucks.
Exactly.
And when you're, no limitations to how many hunters can come in an area. It's not managed that way, and then not self-police where you're shooting every buck you see during the rut, which is the Achilles heel of the deer.
Right.
It doesn't take long to start going way downhill. And like you say, the technology, the information, everything is advanced so far. We're so effective now that a 3-4-year-old buck has a tough time surviving out there on public ground.
Totally. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think we're just to the point where if we just bring awareness to it and recognize it and kind of think about it differently, I think it's going to be super important moving forward for sure. I mean, we don't have to kill to survive nowadays. We do hunt to eat still. We do enjoy it. But at the end of the day, if you don't pull that trigger, send that arrow, you're not going to starve at the end of the day, So our decisions aren't that drastic. Like, it is not life or death. So, yeah, I just think that the hunting industry has went wide open down one path for so long, and we've been so successful at it that, in my opinion, what you're saying, what I'm saying, I think we're past the threshold. Like David Attenborough, to me, is like one of my biggest inspirations, and I'll never forget, he put out a film here called A Life on This Planet, and it's basically his life's work, looking back on him as this environmentalist, naturalist, traveling the world, documenting wildlife populations and all of these things. And he has a line in this film that says something to the effect of, as a young boy growing up, I was enamored by the natural world and in all its beauty and all these things. And he comes around to say, what I didn't realize is what I was witnessing was a dying planet. And he goes on to say, like, I didn't recognize it at the time, but now I do. What I thought was flourishing was actually on its way downhill, and he goes through all these explanations. And I think, not going too far down that rabbit hole, but I think we're there as hunters too, I mean, look at this room, look at tag sales, look at tag prices, like I said, we've done such a good job of recruiting and inspiring and bringing people to the table that now our problem is self-policing. Because, I don't have faith in the officials to make the right decisions for wildlife. I hate to say that, but it's only just because they don't prove me any differently. I shake my head on decisions being made by our state officials all the time.
Me too.
I can't understand it. Like, if you truly love wildlife, how could you possibly think that that is a good idea? You know, but that's a whole other deal. I think the self-policing aspect, and I think it's got to come from guys like you and Eastmans and people that people look up to, need to be the ones to start to say this, you know, instead of just promote, wide open sales, promote, you know, tips and tactics, all this stuff. I think we definitely have to like be the leaders and say, it's time for a change, and here's how we can do it with the power that we have right now, you know. So
moving forward, I think it is that. It's voicing this more. It's trying to be self-policing and having, being respectful out in the woods. Like, there's just a lot of things that go on that I'm not proud to be a hunter that I get to that I have witnessed. You know, where that is not the right way to go about things, and that's all the way from dealing with the pressure and having, you know, a guy see you and go right into where you're hunting, you know, instead of going the opposite direction and giving you space, or instead of having a discussion of where you're going to go, all the way to unethical shots, to harvesting way too much for the resource. And so moving forward, it is like about us talking about it and voicing it, but it's really starting to, you know, we need to implement change, and it starts with the hunters. And so just having this viewpoint, I think, where we do love the wild world and we love the animals in it, and trying to protect that and look out for their well-being. Wouldn't you say, or what would you say moving forward? How do you see a way out of this, or a way that we can still enjoy what we love to do and our kids will be able to enjoy what we love to do?
Well, I think it just comes with discussions like this, and, you know, you can't, it's a big ship, so it's not going to move quickly, but recognizing the problems within it and starting to have those conversations is the first step. The next step is the follow-up, you know, getting people to practice that idea of selective harvest and management, and doing a better job of, like, we have this whole platform to teach people and inspire people and do things. Nobody, instead of, you know, talking about how to get that elk in an extra 30 yards, we should be having more of these conversations, you know, conversations that are super important to the you know, continuation of this room, because at the end of the day, without wildlife, this room doesn't exist. And so if we're not looking after the wildlife first and foremost above sales of what we're doing, then we're going down a one-way street, you know. And obviously I don't have the answer for that, but I think just bringing awareness to it, teaching it, preaching it, practicing it, explaining it, you know, getting across the importance of the difference of, like I said, shooting a 2-point muley for meat versus a white-tailed doe, or a cow elk for meat versus a raghorn. And that's fine if you don't care about the horns, but understand what you're doing within your actions. Because to say I don't care about the horns is just kind of like this write-off, like, I'll fucking kill anything, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. It matters to all of us. The same as you or me hunting something big.
And even if they don't care about the horns, like you say, a lot of those guys are shooting the raghorns or are shooting the 2-point.
They're doing things that aren't healthy for the herds. Yeah. And their excuse is, well, I don't care about the horns, as though it just doesn't matter. Well, it does. In fact, it hurts us a lot. If you don't care about the horns and you shoot a raghorn out of a herd of 200 and it's the only bull, I mean, come on, man. That's not good. And I just think we need to be better about explaining why is that not good. And not like, you know, like shunning people or like shaming them. I don't take away from anybody hunting the way they want to hunt and fulfilling their own personal reasons and out there gaining what they want to gain for their reasons. Like, that's the beautiful part about hunting, and I would never want to try to strip that from anybody. But those people care about wildlife, you know, any hunter I've ever met cares about wildlife. I just don't think a lot of them, understand it, what their actions mean when they're out there and what that means for the longevity of the herd. Like on this Selective film, one quote is, and it's from Glenda, the outfitter I hunted with in the Northwest Territories. She's like, if you have a 7-year-old ram on the side of the mountain and he's bigger than this 12-year-old ram, and you kill the 7.5-year-old ram, you've essentially taken 2 sheep off the mountain. Because that 12-year-old, he's not a breeder anymore. He's likely going to die that winter. And then you killed the breeder ram, the ram that is good for the herd, And so getting people to understand that shooting the wrong animal at the wrong time is essentially taking 2 or maybe even more is a way of looking at it, I don't know, man. It's a big ship to steer, and I believe it. I don't know if it's true, but in my mind and what I've learned and where I hunt and the people I admire and look up to and the things that I do all suggest that we've gone too far, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know. There's some stuff that goes on in my valley, in the Madison Valley, that I've never taken part of, but there's some stuff that goes on that I'm not proud about that goes on with harvest down there. And those cows do need to be harvested. And I believe, in a lot of the rules that we have in place is a branch antler bull or a cow, which is good. And a lot of guys will shoot the cow for the meat. But some of the stuff that goes on would make you sick in my valley. Like these elk get pushed down out of the mountains and get pushed to these flats. And these guys show up by the hundreds in these vehicles and chasing these elk across the flats and parking rigs on roads, and there's tickets written nonstop. And they'll hunt them all the way into the late season. And when you're taking a cow in the late season, you shoot one, you're taking 2 because you're taking their calf as well. And then there's just so many long shots into big herds.
Pot shots.
That's just wounding so many of these elk. And part of it is the ranchers don't like the elk in their food source and want to take more of them out. But it's just, it's not hunting. It's harvesting, and I'm all for a family getting their meat for the year, but some of the stuff I see out there just makes me sick with hunters out there, and somebody's going to get shot out there on those flats. And that warden, they'll have multiple wardens out there every day, and the elk are just out of the mountains trying to survive and trying to winter. But some of that stuff that goes on is so unethical, even though it's legal, that it makes me sick to even see it go on, So just making better decisions, too. And, it is so important for the future of our wildlife and something that we love so much. We have to fight to protect, and if they're not going to put the rules in place, we have to self-police and do what's right for the herd, man. It's so powerful. Yeah,
and what I understood from the vast majority of people that reach out to me about it is they're willing to give up their opportunity for better wildlife. Montanans who love to hunt mule deer during the rut are sending me message saying, I will stop hunting the rut to see the mule deer come back. What do we have to do? Is it less tags? Is it not rut hunting? Is it draw every 5 years? These are hunters who, like us, live and breathe it. They want to do it, but they would rather see the success of the herd, and they're concerned. And so that's what I love about this hunting community and the conservation values, and why hunters have always been the leaders in this is because we care so much about the wildlife that our decisions are based on their future, and we've hit this point. And so the amount of people who have reached out and said things to me, like I said, like, I don't even care if I don't get to hunt mule deer every year. I just want to see the bucks come back. It's just sad. I drive these roads. I don't see the numbers. I don't see the quality. I don't see, you know how it is. You get messages and people sending you stuff all the time, but the overshadowing messaging I'm getting from a lot of hunters is, love what you do, have always supported what you've done, but do you think now you could use your platform to talk about what's wrong? Because, that's cool, good for you. You went out and killed a nice buck in the rut this year, but that's not the overall. Like, we would support you more if you would talk about the problems we're facing versus just promoting mule deer hunting the rut in Montana, because it's not what it used to be. I mean, I remember growing up, not to sound like my dad, but I remember when we would drive after dark to go back to the town where we were staying when we would deer hunt, you couldn't even hit the speed limit because there were so many deer on the side of the roads. You could go like 45 down the highway, at night, and there was no more because there were so many deer. And I remember one day last year, I went out, I got in my side-by-side, and I just went to every high point I could glassing. And I started at 1 in the afternoon, and I went to dark and never saw a single deer. Not one. And I wasn't like digging into one canyon. I was literally hitting high points. I was glassing miles across basins, ag fields, private, public, all of it. Not a single doe, not a fawn. And I'm telling you, man, growing up, we used to leave where we could hunt to go drive through that area at prime time just to see the deer. Mm-hmm. And now, even those areas, there's just not the deer.
Not the deer, not hardly any.
Nothing.
Yeah,
it's just
I know what you're talking about. Like 10 to 20 years ago, there was deer everywhere, just littered through there. Bucks and does and such a healthy population. And it's just changed where it's getting tough to turn up a deer, place where, if you would have done that 15 years ago, you would have counted over 100 deer and probably 20 bucks.
Yeah.
Or if not more.
Right. Yeah.
And for you not to see a deer, things are changing.
Not one.
Not one deer. That is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. It is crazy.
It's tough to see things go downhill or see herds go downhill, or, you have hunting spots that you have some of the greatest experiences in, that you have these wild adventures and see bucks and end up harvesting a good buck, put in a bunch of work for it. And to watch those places change, it's tough because you fall in love with that country, and it's hard not to think that it's going to last forever, but it doesn't take long to change.
Yeah, and I think because of that longevity, because of seeing what it has the potential to yield and support, is part of the reason why it comes back to that self-policing thing. Like, it's not a habitat issue. Mm-hmm. We know the habitat can sustain thousands of deer on it and do just fine. There's like maybe 4 more houses there than when I was little. So it's not like a development thing.
Nope.
So what's the problem then? If it's not habitat and it's not development and it's not all these things, what is the problem? Well, we have had drought, but that's just a natural thing. Like I said, everybody's like, well, where are the deer going? I do believe the deer left in coolers. in the back of people's trucks.
It was
you can't give 4 doe tags to individuals in an area for deer. I wouldn't give 4 mule deer doe tags statewide if it were up to me.
Me neither.
And the fact that somebody can go over the counter and get 4 doe tags in our state and go fill them is crazy to me. Well, crazy.
It does come down to management. Management and us hunters self-policing. But, you can go over the border in another state that manages different, that may only be 100 miles away, but the same looking country, the same feel, the same coulees and canyons. And it's full of deer and full of bucks and healthy population just due to their management and managing each area for a healthy population.
Totally.
And we've managed so long in our home state of Montana for opportunity. And that's fine. I do want everybody to have opportunity, but it gets to this tipping point where all of a sudden now we have so many new people that move there. We sell so many non-resident tags that we can't manage on opportunity because not everybody can have that opportunity. So there's got to be some changes. There's got to be some changes for the better of the herd. Right. Otherwise, it'll be gone forever and nobody will be able to enjoy it. So you're right. We do need to start that change. And part of it, too, is just being able to reach hunters to be able to influence our game departments to change those rules.
Right,
Because, some of that stuff like the 4 doe tags, just taking our herds so far downhill, and that's not what our herds need right now at this point.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And the bucks are 50% of the genetics. The does are the other 50. So it's like, yeah, I think we're on the right step, just recognizing it, talking about it, getting it out there, getting other people to talk about it, getting other people to dig for solutions, and yeah, just leading the way, man. That's why we do what we do. And from TV show and podcasting to just hunters is, leading the way, making the right decisions.
Well, it's a super important conversation. So I'm glad you could come sit down with me, and then you're able to articulate it so well. I love you explaining selective hunting. That 10-minute clip of that, or just that really speaks to me. So man, I really appreciate. I really like these conversations, and I really like today's conversation. Man, I just think it's super important that we have these and break these down and try to educate others. But also, you're educating me, as I'm sitting at the table, which I really appreciate, because that is the future of hunting mule deer for sure.
It's the future of hunting entirely.
Oh, you're right. Yep.
Mule deer is the bellwether, kind of like sheep. They're going to be the first to suffer, but overall, it's the future of everything, I believe.
It is.
Yep. So, yeah, I'm excited for you to see Selective. The whole film starts with a trophy collection in the Bronx Zoo in the early 1900s that was... So, interestingly enough, conservation was started by a trophy collection of heads and horns. And it was called the National Collection of Heads and Horns. Theodore Roosevelt and his buddies went out, and they literally traveled the world, and they shot everything they could. Like everything. Like eagles... ostriches, everything they could, and they mounted it all, and they put together this collection. It's called the North American Collection of Heads and Horns, the National Collection. And Theodore Roosevelt had this idea to put it in the entrance of the Bronx Zoo. So at the time, the Bronx Zoo, zoos in general, were the biggest attractions worldwide. You couldn't see these animals on films. You couldn't get photographs of them. You either had to go where they lived or go to zoos. And so zoos were huge. They were bringing more people than national parks. And so Theodore Roosevelt recognized this, and he built this national collection, and he made this room that you basically had to walk through to go into the zoo. And it was a trophy collection. And he put an insignia above the doorway that said, "In memory of vanishing big game of the world." And so people who showed up to see live animals and get inspired and be happy would show up to the zoo, and they would see this "in memory of vanishing big game of the world." And they would walk into this room, and they would see zebras and giraffes and lions and tigers. And for the first time, the public was like, what is happening? Why are they vanishing? What can we do to be involved? And so his tactic worked. It got the public so scared about the future of wildlife that for the first time they wanted to be involved. And the public's opinion, that was the first time the public started to make decisions for wildlife. And it was based on a trophy collection that was a scare tactic that is still the national collection that's in Springfield, Missouri, there at the Wonders of Wildlife Museum. And so I think a cool point to bring out is if you look at or Google or research the national collection nowadays, it's called the Memorial That Was Never Needed, because there wasn't a single animal that vanished off of our planet because of that. Because of that scare tactic and getting people to go in and go, wait a minute, these animals are vanishing? What's happening? How can I help? What do I got to do? I don't want to see this thing gone. So I think it's really interesting that conservation was started by a trophy collection of taxidermy. So that's where the film starts.
That's wild, man. That's so cool. Yeah, I can't wait to watch the film. Yeah, man, it's amazing. Your ability to tell stories, too, through your films is amazing. So I can't wait to see how you put this together, all the pieces and parts, and more than just a hunt that you did.
Oh, yeah.
Even though that's a huge part of it and the part that I want to see, but I want to see all the other stuff and the story behind it. So it sounds amazing, man. You got to be super proud of it.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. I think of any project I've ever done, this one's probably going to get the most traction, because it's relative to all of us in this room, no matter what you hunt, how you hunt, where you hunt.
Yep. How cool.
Yeah.
Well, you're the man. Thanks for coming in and discussing it for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I appreciate the invite.
Yeah. It's just it's great. That's the future. That's where we need to go.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Again, always fun conversation with Jason. The guy is a absolute stud of a hunter, and so talented with his films and his TV show. It's just amazing. It's one of the ones that I really enjoy. So good work to him on that film. Make sure to go check out Selective and all his films he has out, and Into High Country with Jason Matzinger. Does a great job at that show. He's just a great storyteller, great videographer. Man, yeah, I just strive to put out quality films like that guy does. It's amazing. So go check those out. Check out everything we're doing at Eastmans. Again, check out that new podcast with Dan Picard and I, Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Life of a Podcaster is almost what I said. That's about it. Life of a Bow Hunter. You can search it. It's on a different feed. I'm really proud of how that one's coming out. We'll be releasing episode 9 tomorrow on Friday, so we release one every other Friday, but they're just great episodes. So make sure to go check those out. Check us out. The new Beyond the Grids are out. You can watch Dan Picard kill his biggest bull to date. I've got some episodes coming up, so make sure to check out the new season over there, and our magazines, Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Eastman's Hunting Journal. We really appreciate the support with everything we do, and thanks for the support on this podcast. Make sure to subscribe. If you leave a review on iTunes, that really helps me out, helps out the algorithm. And if you hear an episode that you really like, sharing it on social media is also a huge help. So thanks, you guys, man. I really appreciate making this podcast go. It's amazing. And with that, man, just getting back from this trip, so amazing, man. I just have such good friends out there that I love spending time with them, and they really help with all the logistics of picking me up, dropping me off, letting me stay at their place, giving me a rig to use. We hunted a couple different islands. Mouflon sheep was amazing. I was really fortunate. There wasn't as many of them. Population's kind of down right now, but I was able to harvest a great ram in just the gnarliest lava rock canyons. In the heat and in the open country, and with those switched on sheep, it was quite a feat. I'm pretty proud of it. So I'll be releasing the pictures on social media. Did kill some axis as well. Had some insane axis hunting during the rut, calling, which they're similar to elk when they're calling like that. And just such a cool switched on species. They eat so good. Brought back a bunch of meat, and I killed my best axis to date. I finally broke the 30-inch mark, which I've been trying to do for probably a half dozen trips over there. And it's really tough to kill those big ones. My buddies are good at it. I've got a couple bucks that are in the 29, even one that goes 29 and a half, but I finally broke the 30-inch mark with a giant axis deer. So super pumped about that. Super pumped at my execution, my hunting skill set out there. Really went hard and just had a pile of fun. Man, it just gets me recharged for everything in life, for work, for family, for this hunting season. I can't wait. I'm so glad I did this trip, and just can't thank my buddies enough for their help on everything, and just for their friendship as well. I just really enjoy spending time with them. So, man, it's absolutely amazing. I'm riding a high, trying to get this podcast out to you guys, get caught up at work, but it was something else for sure. So I'll record a podcast where I talk about it a bit. And like I say, we'll release it on social media. And thanks again to the support of you guys and support of Eastmans. And with that, I'll check in with you guys next week.